You're watching another great interview on Audio Inc. Radio.
Hey, what's up? This is Jason Hook from Flat Black, and you're listening to Audio Inc. Radio with Anne Erickson.
What is up? It's Anne Erickson with Audio Inc. Radio, and I'm so happy to be here with Jason Hook from Flat Black. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. You were just saying that the photos behind you are wedding photos, which is so nice, and I couldn't tell from here, but they're beautiful.
Well, thanks. What can I say? The bottom level of my home is like all things music are prohibited. It's the
I like that
upper
rule. You get your like, I don't know, man cave they call it or something, but
yeah, the whole upper floor is my studio and storage.
I think that's smart. Just kind of keep it in its own little space. Keep everyone
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah, so when I want to feel like a normal human being, I'm on the lower level here where I have just normal stuff.
I love it. Cool. Well, congrats on your new band and the new record and everything. First of all, I don't usually ask about a band name, but I'm really curious about this band name, Flat Black.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, trying to come up with a band name is such a it's such a difficult process. I had a note on my iPhone for years with everything I came up with, and there was probably 1,000 things on there, and they all sucked. But um, I've told this story a few times, but I was driving down Las Vegas Boulevard, and there when you pass the main airport, there's a small private airport. Um, and I was driving past that private airport, and there was a flat black private jet on the, parked there. And it had sort of like that papaya colored orange accents. And I just remember thinking, fuck, that thing looks sick. Like I couldn't take my eyes off it, right? It kind of just reeked of like badass cool and, you know, anyway. So I started thinking flat black. Interesting. I'm a big deep purple fan. So I thought, what's a color, right? So what about flat black? And that's kind of where it all started.
I kind of wondered if it was some reference to vinyl because when I think of Flat Black, I think of like a record or something, but I think your
Yeah.
story works too.
Well, I think that it kind of is representative of our community. It's kind of like anyone who wants to murder out their car or their motorcycle or whatever. Sometimes like extra sick is that color.
Hmm.
So the more and of course I have to tell the committee like, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? And they was like, that's pretty fucking cool, actually.
Yeah, so Dark Side of the Brain, is that a Pink Floyd reference? It has to be.
Well, yeah, I'm a big fan of play on words, and that one had been floating around on my title notes for a long time. Because don't we all have sort of a dark side of our brain,
I think so.
right?
Don't tell anyone, but yeah, definitely. So I've heard the whole record. I absolutely love it. I think it's just like it's such a banger. Like I just love cranking it really loud and stuff. So I'm wondering how did all of you musicians find each other? Because it's a really great group of people on the record.
Well, thanks. Um, I'm so glad that you got to hear it. I mean, I've been sitting on this record for quite a while, and no one's heard it except for you and a handful of other people. So it's really cool to hear that you've heard the whole thing and that you like it. And putting the band together, I wanted to be patient and take my time. I'm super picky. I knew what I was looking for, and I just thought however long it takes is however long it takes. Like I need to find I call them Gretzky's. That's a Canadian hockey reference, but Gretzky's are like, one in a million, super, super elite, standout people. And so I just thought, well, I need three Gretzky's. So I got to fill each department and one at a time. I looked at a lot of people, but one at a time, I just made my choices. And I know because when you get out on tour and stuff, that's where the rubber meets the road. Like you really have to have some serious firepower to stand out. There's just too many bands these days.
Oh, absolutely. And if you're a Canadian hockey fan, I'm very sorry about the recent loss of
Oh
Edmonton.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. That was a bit of a heartbreak last night. I mean, it would have been the comeback of the century, but It was not to be.
So tell me about how the collab with Corey Taylor came about. I'm sure that you guys, know each other over the years and stuff.
Well, I didn't really know Corey until 2020. I was in Los Angeles working with his producer, Jay Rustin, on some material, and we just started texting each other, and we hit it off right away. He's a really great guy, and you know, he was he came into my life at the perfect moment because he was like, "What are you up to? What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm just trying to put together a band. I don't have anybody yet. I'm just writing songs, blah 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 blah." And he said, "Well, listen, if you don't have anyone to write with, send me whatever you got, and I'll work with you. I'll help you." So, I'll never forget that. That was a really an amazing gesture. At that time in my life, I was kind of lost. I'm like, what am I doing? What am I going to do? I don't know. I have to build something from scratch. That can be very daunting.
Hmm.
And then to have somebody of his stature come along and be a friend and be cool and willing like that, it really helped me, like, help my spirit. So for that, I'm forever grateful.
You mentioned building something from scratch. How is it different now compared to like when you first got in the music industry trying to break out?
How is it? Well, it's in a good way, coming from Five Finger Death Punch, that certainly has helped me skip a few steps, as far as having a bit of a track record. Um, but ironically, when we got signed to Fearless, they just heard the record and didn't know who I was, didn't know anything about my past, didn't know anything, didn't care. They just heard the record and said, let's sign that.
That's
And
great.
yeah, when I went to the first meeting with them and met everybody there, great, great group of people. Um, the general manager, this wonderful woman, Jill Weindorf, came and said, I didn't know who you were, but I just heard this and I'm like, yes, sign this." And I think that was like the highlight of the whole experience because I wanted to, as a personal challenge, I wanted to try to make songs that it didn't matter where I came from or what I had done. The music should stand on its own. Like, this is a cool, you need to hear this. And that's hard to do. But I wanted to have that sort of potency on first listen.
Yeah, I think something I like about the record is that it's definitely still in that five finger genre, like the hard rock, but it's very much its own sound and its own just brand. Was that something you set out to do, or did you just kind of write whatever came to you?
Well, I love that you said that because one of the things I'm adamant about is not chasing a trend. And I find that these days there is a specific sound that is getting diluted and more diluted, and we're starting to get watered down versions of the same thing over and over and over again. And that's no disrespect to any of these new bands, but I don't really listen to a lot of current music. I feel like what gives us our edge is maybe the fact that it comes from here, and I'm not trying to fit in. I'm not trying to chase what the current sound is. So yeah, that's it. I mean, I really wanted to stand apart. I think that's important. It's like Ghosts, like when you hear Ghosts, you're like, they're not trying to be Fall in Reverse or Bad Omens. They're just fucking Ghost,
Yeah.
you know?
No, I totally agree. And now once in a while I hear bands trying to sound like Ghost, and I'm like, no.
Of course. Well, that's how it works. So I consider myself a leader, maybe not the best leader, but I consider myself a leader. So it was important for me to sort of ignore the noise and try to carve out our own path,
Yeah.
sonically.
And you definitely did that. Do you have a favorite track on the record?
It's hard because I worked on maybe 30 or 40 songs for this record and then sort of cut the ones that weren't the great ones and really try to shrink it down to the best songs, in my opinion, anyway. And so I'm very proud of, I like, there's a song on there called Home, which is sort of our little ballad. And I think that's just a really, I mean, it delivers an emotion. I feel that song. And on the heavy side, probably. either lack of respect or it's okay to be angry. I don't know. It's kind of hard to pick. Halo's cool. I can't, it's hard for me to pick.
You also produced a few years ago a documentary, Hired Gun, which is so good. Everyone who's seen it, who I know, just loves it. So even people who didn't, know you from Five Finger or whatnot, do you have any plans to do anything else like that?
Well, I um I film everything. Like I have a bit of a problem with that. Like I always think that, what a shame that bands like Pantera didn't make more, like making the record or filming their, I mean, they did put out some home videos, so that's not completely accurate. But let's go back to like Van Halen, who never filmed anything, and what a treasure that would be to have that stuff. And when I was growing up, I was watching things like 2 years in the life of Metallica making the Black Album. And back then I bought it on fucking VHS, And so I just started filming. I film everything. And so to answer your question, I did film the entire process of putting this band together and making the record. And it ends up being like 60 terabytes worth of hard drives space. And my fantasy is to make a long form doc of some kind. But it's just very time consuming. It takes a lot of manpower, a lot of resources to put something like that together. So it's sitting there, and that's my, that's what I'd like to do. But everyone on my team is like, no, no one's gonna watch that. We got to do vertical,
Oh, I hate vertical video
vertical
too.
for TikTok, and I'm just going, oh my fuck, okay.
No,
So,
that's exciting. Well, I hope that eventually some of that footage, people get to see and stuff.
oh, it will, especially if the album pops. Then I think there might be more of a demand for that, in which case I can sort of rally some resources to get help with it. Because, Hired Gun took 3 years and had 40 people
Wow.
full time on that project. So, it's not, you know, it's a big job, but I think it's worth, I mean, I shot it all. So it'd be a shame to not put it together.
And I love what you're saying about just filming everything because that's true. Even something like with your kind of life that you might think, oh, this is boring, isn't going to be boring to a lot of people.
Yeah, I think once we have some more people that are emotionally attached to the record, to follow it with that, I think would be a nice little bonus treat. You can actually see the struggle of building this thing.
What do you hope for the future of Flat Black?
Um, well, the same thing every band wants. I want to reach as many people's hearts and minds as possible.
What are your thoughts on the climate right now out there with not just rock and metal bands, but music in general? Because there is so much out there. I mean, on one hand, it's great that people can release their own music and that sort of thing. But on the other hand, there's just so much noise out there. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on it.
I think it's I think it's brutal. I'm sort of going through it myself now as a brand new band. It's very different, and it's kind of sad, to be honest, because anyone who has intermediate programming skills and a laptop can get in the game, you know?
Right.
Um, and with Spotify and all that stuff, it's like, you're never going to get paid for these records unless something like really goes through the roof. So it's a brand new landscape. And but it's an amazing game. And when it's good, there's nothing better. And when it's bad, there's nothing worse. But it's that lure, it's like, I gotta try, man, because when it's good, it's like that's a high that you can't really replace. So I'm addicted to it. And as an artist, I just need the outlet. So whatever happens, happens. At this juncture, I've achieved a lot and conquered a lot of personal goals, certainly with the Death Punch. So at this juncture, it's really just about needing the outlet and having fun and having, when you wake up, you go, oh, I'm excited because I have a thing that's in motion.
Yeah, no, I totally know what you mean because I make music and sometimes I'm like, all right, if no one hears it, at least I got that artistic thing out there.
Well, look, in back in the early days of my life, there was no internet, there was no TikTok, there was no Instagram, all that stuff. We would write songs. My band and I would write songs, and we would be like, okay, we get to play these Saturday night. And if they like these songs, then they'll come the next Saturday night. And eventually you get more and more people. And it's like, oh, that's the way, that was the only payoff, the only reward system. Like, and So it's it reminds me of that a little bit, which I'm used to, it's fine.
Do you think playing live will be a big part of Flat Black?
Oh yeah, oh big time. And picking the guys in the band, I had no concerns whatsoever. I mean, if there's one thing I really know how to do, and that's how I know how to build a live band. Been doing that since I was a teenager, and I think people are noticing.
On Five Finger, do you keep in touch with any of the guys, or do you think you guys might play gigs with them?
I do. I have the occasional text message with Ivan. He's kind of the only one I really communicate with, and gigging with them, that would be up to them. My guess is they probably wouldn't do that. Um, but you never know. Whatever.
I think it'd be cool, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just I don't know where their heads are at. Like I've just been completely disconnected from the whole thing since 2020.
in general, what do you hope for like the next 10 years for Flat Black?
It'd be nice if this thing got to a level where it was a self-contained functioning business. I don't want it to sort of plateau and not continue to pierce certain levels. I mean, I think that would be, I mean, I got big ideas and big expectations and big hopes, and I'm always focused on how do we get up here. So, and I think that the model for that is more music more frequently. Like the first record we took our time with and perfected it. The model now changes to like, okay, now we need a record every 18 months, and to not like overthink it too much, but just keep injecting new music into the marketplace. I think that's the model now moving forward, is just more content, more frequent.
Yeah, I mean, that's the model in music in general. People with the streaming and stuff, they try to release, it seems like every 6 weeks.
Oh, I see it myself. Like I see when we release a song, I can log into the Spotify analytics, and there's a huge spike, and then it just kind of comes down, you
Yep.
know? And
Yep.
it's like the rate of consumption, with the way things are now with the internet, the rate of consumption is so quick, and the shelf life is so quick, so short, that I don't see any other method other than to, it just requires a lot of hard work. And that's actually what I like.
Yeah, well, I look forward to the future of Flat Black and congrats again on Dark Side of the Brain. I can't wait for people to hear it.
Thank you very much.